I'm Hollie.
And I'm Stacey.
And we are here to discuss the side of musical theatre that isn't talked about enough.
And we're going to cover all of the topics that you're maybe not so excited to finally announce on your Instagram page.
Welcome to Behind the Curtain.
Hi, Hollie.
Hi, Stacey. Welcome back to Behind the Curtain.
Welcome back. Oh, I've got my friend's socks on. Whoops. How are you this fine afternoon?
I am quite cold, actually.
Yeah, I'm a little bit chilly.
I'm all right. I'm feeling a little bit like pre-period. Like, woe is me. But yeah, I'm fine.
I feel that.
How are you?
I feel a bit crazy about my fringe. I gave her a trim in the travel lodge today with my nail scissors. I actually cut her with my nail scissors, didn't I?
Yeah.
The 5-minute call in Liverpool.
Yeah, so Stacey was like, I think I want a fringe.
For the Christmas party.
And then started to get out the scissors and cut it over the sink, which I was like,
Bit
slay.
rogue, wasn't it?
Yeah. But look at the fringe, guys.
I like her. I just feel, do you know, I feel the same way about my fringe that I do about wearing hats. Because I just get about in the street and I'm like, everyone's laughing at me. Everyone's like going to go home and say like, why is she wearing a hat? She's not a hat person. She's never worn hats before. I've got a really big head as well. Which, this is really spiraled and this is your interview. But now I'm like, I just wanted to look like Sabrina Carpenter and now I'm having a confidence crisis.
Also, sorry to anyone that's not watching this, but
oh yeah, I've got a fringe.
Stacey's got a fringe. I've actually got a mop of a hairdo at the minute. So if you're not watching, please don't watch because I hate my hair at the minute.
I air wrapped mine. I was going to say air dropped. I air dropped my hair this morning. No, I air wrapped my hair and then like 0.5 seconds outside, volume gone. But
I just actually feel like I've got not a wet mop actually, just a big mop on my head.
You're getting her looked at on Friday though, no?
I am.
She's going to be a new woman. And we did it was my first show at the Playhouse last night. You've done 2 this week, haven't you?
Yes, and it's freaking epic, man.
It is one of those auditoriums you look out and you go like, wow, that's like vision board sort of stuff, isn't it?
And Saturday is going to be our biggest audience
of the whole tour
ever done. Yeah. Even the
exciting.
Dominion.
The Dominion.
Which was epic.
That was really cool, wasn't it?
But yeah, this is, I think, Saturday, 1, 3,000 people. 2, Rocky fans. 3, they're Scottish.
They're Scottish. And I love, for anyone who isn't familiar with Rocky, there's a big element of like audience participation. And I don't know about you, but I think the shout outs are 10 times more funny when it's a Scottish accent. I thought the same when we did Glasgow as well.
Yeah.
I was just like, everything is automatically comedic gold.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, that'll be exciting. How do you feel about being the first official guest of Behind the Curtain? Not sure what accent that was. Definitely wasn't Scottish.
I feel quite nervous actually, because I'm always the other side of it, and I get a bit flustered with my words.
That's all right.
But no, I'm nervous, but I'm excited because we've all got stories to tell in this industry. So why don't we start with mine?
Get straight into it. I mean, so obviously we are planning to get lots of different guests on from lots of different backgrounds, lots of different areas of the industry, which we don't often hear about because there's a lot of kind of celebrating the success of the performer. And there is a whole load of cogs in this machine that makes it work. So that is something that I'm looking forward to doing. But we're going to start off with, I've had an audition through and I'm playing Hollie Nelson and I'm getting on doing my little character synopsis with my research. If you had to summarise who you are, how you got here and where you're at right now, how would you do that?
Performing's always been a part of my life ever since being a kid. And I don't know if there was ever a other thought of a job that I was going to do. It was always going to be this. So yeah, I went to dance school, was a competition kid, championships.
Festival girly!
And then, yeah, after kind of doing that until I was 16, 17, I then auditioned for college, went to 3 years for drama school, and went straight into Mamma Mia, the musical, which was amazing. And I was on that on and off for 5 years, which was a real huge part of my life. And to graduate into that and then leave kind of doing most of the roles, I couldn't really have done anything else in it. It was a really special learning, growing experience that I will never, ever forget. And that is a moment of my life that I just will always cherish. Mamma Mia taught me how to be a swing, how to be a dance captain, how to be a good person on tour, like how to just be, like, I don't know, I just learned a lot of things that you don't learn at college, like how to bloody be on tour and how to cut a show. And like, I didn't really get that at college. So I learned a lot in that contract. However, then I came out of it and I went into Mamma Mia when I was 21. I came out of it when I was 28. Very different person.
Yeah, and a whole ass pandemic in between as well,
Yeah.
right?
Obviously in and outs in between the contracts with the pandemic, with
Of course.
kind of years out. And then I came out of it last year and was like, okay, this person, me, Hollie, is a different person than I was when I first graduated. And that was really hard to process, of like mindset wise going into the room, like what am I bringing?
Yeah. I mean, that's a
And-
long time to not audition for things as well.
Yeah. Your name's not in the room. You're not being seen by casting directors. Like, it was a big jump to be like, right, you've got to get back in the room. And also, I think just being older and learning, I stepped into the room this last year, and was like, I've got to just bring myself. I need to just be myself because no one else is me. And I think a lot of what I had before that was trying to be other people, trying to be something else that I'm not.
Trying to be what you think the panel's looking for, kind
Trying
of
to
thing.
fit the brief that, unfortunately, like I can't change what I look like, or I just felt like I was always trying to be something that I'm not. And I think that is something that I would shout from the rooftops for any performer, is to stop trying to fit into this mold that you think it is, and actually just be like, this is me, this is what I'm good at. Like, hone your craft and be good at what you can do. Take that into the room, be confident with what you look like, what you can do, and they'll love you for that.
Yeah.
You can read it when you're not being yourself. You can read it
Yeah,
from
big time.
confidence, like even just how you stand, how you perform, how you speak. You can tell when someone's not being themselves. And I do think that was like the biggest thing I learned coming out of a contract, of being like...
When do you think there was like one pivotal moment where that change in self-confidence happened? Because I suppose it can be really difficult for those that have newly graduated or are going to be graduating soon, because you kind of, from like nursery, someone tells you what your Monday to Friday is going to look like. This is what you're part of, this is what you're doing, this is where you're going to be. And I suppose going straight from college into a touring production, it's like you still had that. You had somebody else saying, this is how your time is going to be spent.
Yeah.
Along that sort of 5-year journey with that show, is there any one pinpoint where you kind of, you felt like that different person? Or was it coming to the end of the contract where it's like, I've now got to fend for myself and I've got to find my routine? Where did that come from?
I think through the years I was on Mamma Mia, I found yoga and I found like meditation. And I would just go and practice and be a student in a lot of studios while I was touring, which was a great kind of thing for me to do aside with the show. And then after lockdown, I actually trained to be a teacher and started to teach as well as perform. And when I went back on tour, I couldn't do that as much after the pandemic. And I kind of felt like I lost who I was actually in the job, in myself. I was just kind of sleeping, eating, doing the job,
Singing
repeating.
Waterloo. Yeah.
Exactly. And I lost who I was along the way. And I had a week off and I went on a retreat. And the first question they asked me was, when was the last time you felt most authentically yourself? And I couldn't answer it.
I was going to say, that's
I couldn't answer it.
Welcome to the retreat.
Yeah.
Let's give you an existential crisis to think about.
And I was like, wow, I thought I was being the most authentic self because I was doing a job that I loved. I was traveling. I
Booked yourself onto a retreat. Like
Yeah.
you're emotionally mature and doing the self-work.
On the Instagram,
Yeah.
it looked all
Wholesome and yeah.
And it was a huge realization. And I was like, wow, this is really interesting. And we obviously, through the retreat, we did a lot of exercises. We did a lot of meditating. We did a lot of yoga. We did theta healing. And even just like talking, just talking out loud to people that are not in the industry. It's people from all different areas of life. And after that retreat, I promised myself that I would be authentically me with whatever I was going to do. And I think that was the switch when I then finished that contract, because that was in the same year. I was going into the auditions and I said to myself, you've got to walk in and be you. And I don't know if it was fate. I don't know if it was luck. I don't know what it was, but something changed. And I was getting the recalls. I was getting the finals. And I actually couldn't believe it myself. I was kind of like, oh, just maybe a bit of a fluke. And my partner was like, no, Hollie, you're doing this. This is you. This is...
They're not giving you the finals for banter.
Yeah, this is not just happening. And I kind of was just like laughing it off and kind of like, oh yeah, but... And when I look back to it, I'm like, no, the only thing that changed was that I was confident in who I was and who I was walking in to be in that room. I've always not been that stereotypical performer body image. And actually, I stripped that all away and was like, no, but I can do everything else that everyone else is doing. Or I am strong and it's thinking of the things that you are good at instead of stripping the things that you're maybe not good at.
And it's so much easier to notice the things that we feel we're lacking, that we're not as good at. No one can give what you can give, and that is a really powerful thing. And I think it is difficult, like when you walk into a dance call and you're stood next to someone that looks like they've stepped off from Radio City Hall and you're like, oh, my hamstrings are not that long and I've got biscuit feet.
Yeah.
It is really difficult to not then let that spiral, and that is... I think we underestimate a lot of the time, like, the power of your mindset, and not to sound really sort of cliche, but it's about kind of, if they want you, they'll want you. There is something so comforting to watch someone just be
themselves.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it felt refreshing in myself as well. And even stepping into like this job, knowing that I was so authentically myself in the audition process.
You don't then come into rehearsals being like, oh, I've got to upkeep that for 13
I'm not trying to
months.
prove anything. I'm not trying to prove anything to anyone else or myself. Like, I think it just, there was a mindset shift that was just so simple, but actually real life changing.
Yeah. Your yoga, I want to touch more on this. So what was the first thought? Like, when did you first discover that? Where did that come from?
When I first started yoga, it was actually in Milton Keynes.
Of all places.
And I did hot yoga there. And I went with my friend and we used to just do it all the time. And then there was like a moment where I was like, this is giving me something that's not the show, but I can express myself kind of physically, but I also found the dance element of it. So at first it was very much just a physical practice for me, keeping the flexibility there, like moving my body, breath work, and how that really helped me through like anxiety and like nerves. And there was like a shift there that I thought, ooh, this could really help actually in what I'm doing. And that's always been kind of something that I've wanted to like learn more about and connect into the theatre arts and like industry in general. And there was something about me teaching that I was really inspired about, especially with people in the arts. I think it's something that could really help a lot of people with like stage fright and with nerves before an audition, with breath. Like, there's so much that you can take from it that's not just like the spiritual
Sitting
side.
in child's pose and breathing.
Or the physical practice. There's so much you can take from it. So yeah, after I'd done like a few years of practicing just as a student, it was in lockdown that I was like, oh, I haven't got a job.
Yes.
What if this never comes back?
Yeah.
And I thought, I want to take that passion and
Do something with it.
do something with it. So yeah, I did my teacher training. It was like when Eat Out to Help Out came out, and it was
that went well, didn't it?
it was in that like short period that I actually got it done in person, and then we went back into lockdown. So I went and
She got on her virtual game.
I got on the Zoom and I started teaching, and it's something that I feel like I know like 2% about still, because it is just a minefield of exploration. But it's something that I'm really passionate about keeping into my routine, because I do feel a difference when I don't do it.
Yeah. I think,
but it's like anything. It's like this resistance between,
yes.
like, we've spoken about this of like, even like journaling or doing the things like that actually make you think about how you're feeling. Like, sometimes you're just on a cycle of doing the same thing and you can get through, but actually
there are little changes you can make that kind of change it from a surviving to thriving.
But it does, and it is.
We're those people, aren't we?
Yeah.
Surviving and thriving.
We're big on the manifesting at the minute.
Oh, we are. Roxy Nafusi, we love you, Queen.
We literally love you.
But even we noticed a difference. For those of you that don't know, I'm the DC here at Rocky Horror. But every Thursday, Hollie leads warm up. I don't need it, and we have Zen Thursdays. And even then, company members have said like, "Oh, I really needed that today. I feel better." And we do 10, 15 minutes of it, but it's different.
It's something that just actually stops you, and I like to start of getting everyone just in the present moment, focusing on their breath. And I can tell you probably 9 times out of 10, people have not thought about that before they've stepped onto the stage.
Yeah.
And we would normally just then do a physical warm-up, vocal warm-up, you're back into that cycle.
Yeah.
And it's actually stopping and being like, actually, how is my breath lying? Because that is a huge factor of how you're feeling. If it's up in your chest, if it's like down in your belly, is it short, is it long? And we kind of think about it because we're singing, but
it's always from a technical point of view.
It's
from like
different...
how can I safely and sustainably execute my job? It's not, and like from somebody who have I been a skeptic? Yeah, maybe I have been a skeptic when it comes to the more spiritual side of it, because my experiences with yoga, a lot of it was sort of like, okay, inhale and now just exhale all of your stresses and worries. And I'd be like, okay, well, I'm still stressed and worried and now I'm out of breath. Like, it was just one of them that I was like, this is not working for me. But I think with Zen Thursdays, with it being a slightly sort of like bite-size situation, it's part of a company, again, that whole being part of something. And also, you can't sit and focus solely on your breath when you're trying to think about 25 other things at the same time. So in order to accurately execute it, you have to switch off, which I'm working on. I'm not that good at it yet. But
that is the whole point of it. It is, especially vinyasa with what I teach, it's like breath. It's connecting the breath and the movement together. So it's, when you're fully present, all you're thinking about is the breath and the movement. And a lot of people think that you can't think about other things, but actually that is what you need, is to like have that realization of like, oh, my brain was there and that is fine, but I'm just going to bring it back
for this. And we don't need to be drafting an email whilst we're doing Warrior 2.
But also
Warrior 2, I'm learning.
But also, if you are drafting that email, that is okay. But it's also just realizing that you've done that, and I'm just going to bring it back to this moment. Our heads are so many, like, there's always so many tabs open.
I love when people say that. Like, I've got loads of tabs open at the moment, and I'm like, that imagery is so accurate.
Yeah. But it is, and that's fine. It's fine to have that many tabs, but it's not, but it also is.
You need the ability
but it's the ability
close
to go,
the window.
And go, I'm going to come back to this moment because right now I can't do anything about that. I'm in the middle of a class, or I'm in the middle of warm-up, or I'm in the middle of a show, and I can't do anything about that right now. So I'm just going to bring it back. and just small things that I've took from teaching and taking class. I just find it so helpful to live a lot more of a sustainable life. I think our industry, the life isn't sustainable. And like we are moving around a lot.
Yeah.
Our jobs in general are very like insecure. Like you don't know.
A lot out of our control.
Yeah, it's instability. You don't know if money's going to be coming in here or there when you finish the job. You don't know where you're going to be living here or there. And I think having something like yoga, or it doesn't have to be yoga for you, it could be something else, but having something that is grounding or...
That you can implement, you don't need someone else's sort of go-ahead.
Yeah, to just find that kind of grounding in yourself, especially like us on tour, I think it just helps me to feel that kind of peace and kind of roots down when I'm in a place that's unfamiliar.
Away from the sort of spiritual mindset side of yoga, would you say you've noticed a physical difference in your dance and the kind of actual execution of things?
Oh my God, huge. Like I think a lot of the yoga, actually my favourite classes is when I've got no mirrors, because I'm really connected into my body then. And I think so many times I've gone to class, like dance class, and I've seen so many people, all they're caring about is what they look
like,
at them in the mirror. And I did, on this retreat about the whole authentic self, we did this practice where we basically, she was leading vocally, but she wasn't telling us physically what to do. So we moved with however she was like describing
Interesting.
for how you want it to feel, and the music and stuff. And that was honestly a huge awakening, because I was like, especially with what we do, if we've got a choreographed routine that is set, like that is how it's meant to be.
Yeah.
But there is ways that you can add like flair, and you can add your own little spark to it, that through yoga I feel like I've found that is like my strength to add to in an audition, to have that extra flair. And I feel like a lot more in touch with my body, of how I move it and my strengths and my weaknesses, to kind of better myself in the room, in class, in my job. And it's definitely helped, because it is a low impact. You're not obviously jumping around. It's a very low impact activity. I found like the internal strength I get from yoga has helped so much with dancing, because...
I mean, that's why you could lift my suitcase up. This was so embarrassing. Where were we going from and to?
We weren't
going
from
home.
Blackpool.
And I thought, I can get this case in the overhead storage. I could, in fact, not lift it over my head. And then Hollie, I'm not joking, it was like the moment in the show with Magenta when she just like pushes the button down when everyone's been using like their hot... And Hollie literally with one hand just like shoved it over my head, and I thought, wow, that's really humbling. And really noticeable who does regular yoga like, where's my spaghetti arms? When you say lower slowly to the floor and I'm like, dumb, face plant, I'm like, oh, that wasn't very zen.
Yeah, I do love, I feel like I can have a sustainable life when I have my yoga practice in play and I can do my job. And but it also is finding the balance as well. Like I do love strength training, and I love like a sweaty Barry's workout. It's again not something that I could do
5 times a week.
5 times a week with the show. Like no.
And they definitely say incline 7, and I say incline 0.
But it's finding that thing that you
alongside the show, like you were saying,
you feel is sustainable for that.
Yeah.
Because there's no point doing something that is just going to wipe you out to do your job. Unfortunately, that is a sacrifice you've got to take. But I feel with yoga, it is something physically.
It's a different impact.
It's a different impact, yeah.
Obviously, we have, like we were saying, 7 months left on the road. What would you say has been your highlight so far of this contract?
My highlight was, I've got 2.
Greedy.
My first one was at the Dominion.
Yeah.
Making my West End debut, and I had my family and my partner's family and my best friend there, which was really special. I think just because they have all been a very big support in everything I've done, and to have them all there to see me, see me do something that was a big career tick was really super special. And then my second one is when I went on for Magenta, which
Winter Gardens, Blackpool, baby.
yeah, which was pretty epic. It was really, it was really special, and it was really magical. Actually, I felt very in tune with myself that day. Normally, I feel like I'm quite crazy.
Yeah.
And it was my first time doing a role. It was my first time doing Magenta, obviously. And I remember...
And you're the first one on stage. That spotlight boom in front of that pink curtain with that ice cream tray. Like, it's not... It's a tall order.
Yeah. And I remember someone saying, oh, do you want me to get some pictures and do you want me to get some videos? And I was like, no, I think I just want to remember this in the present moment. I just want to remember and not have to worry about when I look back.
Social. Yeah.
I want to just really remember this. If this is the only time I ever go on, I want to remember this day. And I really do remember it with such, like, everyone was amazing and just so supportive. And I'm so thankful I've got people like that around me. To be able to do it at the Winter Gardens with such a beautiful auditorium and beautiful theatre was so special. And when I was a kid, like, I used to go to Blackpool and do championships, and like to kind of have that full circle moment was really cool.
We love full circles.
Yeah.
What would you say on the flip side, not to be a Debbie Downer, but like what has been a little trickier, would you say, being on tour this time round? Again, you're very well versed in touring, but it was a different ball game last time you were away, wasn't it?
Yeah, 100%. I think this time I have come on tour and I've got my partner back in London, and I came off tour in January 2024 and I needed to find somewhere that was like a home to me. I needed somewhere that I had stability and grounding because I'd been on tour so long. All my stuff was just in storage.
Yeah.
So to be able to find that last year was really like needed, and I'm so thankful we have somewhere that we can call home and is grounding. However, booking then a tour was
leaving was harder.
Leaving this place that we then put roots down. And I think that is the hardest part for me, is just finding, obviously I don't get to see him as much as I would like to. He is in the industry, he works on a Sunday, that's my day off. Like, I find that the hardest part of just kind of being away from loved ones and friends.
Yeah.
And also the kind of change all the time I find quite hard. But I feel like I've kind of found my rhythm and found what I need to do
alongside it
while I'm on tour, to be able to make it work for me right now. Because me, a few years ago on tour, I didn't have anything that was kind of holding me back. It was just me on tour. I could go from venue to venue. I didn't need to think about anything else. Didn't need to think about a rent to pay back at home. Didn't need to think about bills.
Brunch every day.
Yeah, I didn't need to think.
I'm still a bit guilty of doing that.
But obviously I've got them things now to also think about money-wise and just
adult
time.
life-wise,
and they are my priority. Like, but also I didn't want to turn this job down because it was something that I really wanted to do. But it was just also something that I've maybe needed to think about for next time, of what I need
at this point in your life.
At this point, so for me, I make sure if I can, I go back home on a Sunday and I find that grounding. I go back to my safe space, and then I come back and I feel a little bit more reset. But yeah, that's probably one of the things.
I think it's hard as performers, again, like what we were saying in our intro episode, of like, just you always have to be in this state of being eternally grateful, but it's also learning that it's okay to be a bit more specific. And ultimately, you know, when life does happen, when you do get older, when other things come into play, you're not an undeserving artist because there are certain things that you need to prioritise or want to prioritise, or you don't want to throw yourself into every situation or circumstance that comes your way. It's quite hard, I think, for performers to feel like that's an acceptable thing to do.
Yeah, but I think it also, you take authority then in that, and you also, when you book the job that you have been really specific about what you want,
the elation is
more fulfilled.
I hope that's something that people can get from this podcast as well, that you're not unworthy or undeserving for taking ownership on certain areas of your life and being specific. The industry doesn't exist without performers, and it's okay if we also have opinions or decisions and things that we want to take control of. God, that got really deep. So, something we're going to introduce when we have our guests on is our final 3 questions to sign off.
I've actually forgot what these are.
I was really hoping you were going to... No, remembered it. On a light-hearted one, we're not going deep. What would you say in these last 12 months, best thing you've seen on stage?
Hadestown.
Period.
Oh, is it? Oh, I've seen quite a good... Yeah, I think it is Hadestown.
You loved Benjamin Butts
I did love Benjamin, but do you know what? That was one that I actually went and I didn't know anything about. And every person on that stage was just phenomenal and blew me away.
Actamusos.
Right. They bloody played it, sang it, acted it, moved it. Like, that was incredible.
Stunning. On a slightly deeper note, what would you say at this point in your life you are most proud of?
What?
Another little existential crisis, just like sprinkled on the end there.
I think I'm most proud of finding back why I started this and finding
Love
that authentic self I'm proud of what I am and who I am and all I've achieved in and out of work. And I think, yes, the West End debuts are amazing and the travelling and the jobs are all what I wanted from this career. But I actually think I'm most proud of just being who I am in this crazy industry and finally finding that back.
Love that.
Does that make sense?
So much sense.
Yeah, I think I lost, obviously I've done it since I was a kid.
Yeah.
And I think you lose that sparkle when it's from a hobby into a job.
That's really difficult transition.
And I think when you actually look back to why we do it, we're in an industry that doesn't
offer the joy. A lot of the time you've got to find it, haven't you?
Yeah, like unstable.
It's a lot of like it's social sacrifice.
Yeah, it's a lot of sacrifice. But I think, I'm most proud of just going for it and going for what I want in this industry.
Love that. I almost wish that was our final one. But our final one, on that note, is if you could send one message to all performers out there that you wish they knew more about, what would it be?
I would say find your little passion project. Find something, doesn't have to be big or it doesn't need to be like groundbreaking, but it's finding that something that you can do alongside this industry that sparks joy. If that is a hobby, like if it's like a hobby, like, I don't know, pottery painting or...
Yeah, I love that. I love a little ceramic cafe.
Yeah, like just something that is not this industry that when you're in the times of like auditions back and forth, no's are getting at you, like, and you just feel absolutely defeated. You've actually got something else that still gives you that joy.
Yeah.
And we, as performers, have so many skills that, like, are so transferable into so many different jobs and so many different hobbies. I think
they need to utilise
that, and actually it brings you back to the person of who you are and not just this performer.
Yeah. This actor, singer, dancer.
Yeah, there's so many times if you're in that audition loop that you're just like plastering on this face of like, I am fine and this is what I'm doing. And actually when you just come back to the normality of a hobby, this all was a hobby probably for us.
Yes.
Finding that back again of like something that sparks joy into your life that isn't auditions, isn't work, and just having that little bit of happiness.
Love that. Thanks for being the first official guest on Behind the Curtain.
Thanks for interviewing me.
Oh my God. I actually, and when we first started this, I was like, what am I going to ask her? Because I feel like I know so much already, but I feel like I've learned more about you just now.
And I think you absolutely smashed it.
Thanks.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everyone. See you next time. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Behind the Curtain podcast.
Don't forget, you can follow us on Instagram and TikTok at Behind Curtain Podcast.
And follow the link in our bio to watch us on YouTube. We love you so much.
We love you.
Bye.